Hello and welcome back to Jazzonomics. I've been rifling through the large job lot and I pulled out an album of considerable interest. It was an album that was recorded in 1966 on the Blue Note label but wasn't released until 1979. It was arranged by the pianist Duke Pearson, and the composer and main protagonist on the album is the tenor saxophonist Hank Mobley. Mobley composed the album in 1964 when he was in prison for narcotics offences, and it's an atypical Hank Mobley album. He plays as part of an octet, and the album is a slice of the top. There are some usual suspects on this album, including James Spaulding on alto saxophone, Lee Morgan on trumpet, McCoy Tyner on piano, and Billy Higgins on drums. But there are a couple of slightly unusual instruments on here for a small group setting, including a tuba played by Howard Johnson and a euphonium played by Kian Zawadi. What's a euphonium? Do you know what a euphonium is? Do you know what a euphonium is? I don't know. There's nobody there. I've heard the tuba referred to as the ponderous horn. I'm sure that features somewhere in the Vis Profanosaurus. I think I read that in the sleeve notes to Jackie McLean's Fat Jazz. The tuba isn't ponderous at all on this album. In fact, it's quite sprightly and it adds an awful lot of depth and resonance to the sound. The arrangements at times do skirt a little close to that of a big band, but don't let that put you off. There's probably only one track that is slightly plodding and prosaic. The rest of it really does rattle along at pace. The tuba references that I had before listening to this particular album were probably rather few and far between. I've mentioned Jackie McLean's Fat Jazz, part of this Avid 4 album set, which you'll be able to pick up for no more than $6.99 new, delivered. You may well be able to find that for a little bit cheaper. All 4 albums on here are excellent, including Fat Jazz. And probably the first reference point of the tuba that I had is on the Springsteen album, The Wild, the Innocent and the E Street Shuffle, released in 1973. And it features on Wild Billy's Circus Story, a track on here that I must admit I'm not overly keen on. Listening to this album again fairly recently, and also some live versions of tracks on this album from the 1975 Hammersmith Odeon album, it's amazing how jazzy and soulful the band are. There's an 18-minute version of Kitty's Back on the 1975 Hammersmith Odeon album that is absolutely fabulous. Danny Federici playing the organ is on fire. David Sanscious on piano is also tearing the hell out of it. If you've got an interest even if you haven't got an interest in Springsteen, check out that 17-minute track on the Hammersmith Odeon live album, and there is some really great soul jazz playing by the keyboard players on there. And the third reference point that I had for the tuba before listening to this very, very good album indeed, A Slice of the Top, is probably the theme tune to Hancock's Half Hour. And if you want to sort of experience a descent into depression and alcoholism, I can't recommend this book enough. When the Wind Changed, a biography of Tony Hancock. Absolutely riveting. Absolutely riveting. That's probably enough for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. This was Jazzonomics.